The message came at 3 in the morning when most of the world was sleeping. Every screen on Earth went dark for a moment before showing the same image. An alien face appeared, pale blue skin stretched over sharp bones, 3 eyes blinking one after another. The creature called itself High Arbiter Velconis of the Galactic Council, and its words changed everything. Species designation: human. Planet designation: Earth. You have been watched and studied. The Galactic Council has decided that your kind is too dangerous to exist freely. Your history of war and violence makes you a threat to all peaceful species. You are ordered to surrender within 30 of your days. Destroy your weapons. Disable your ships. Accept our control. If you refuse, your planet will be cleaned of all life. This is not a request. The transmission ended as suddenly as it began. In Washington, Secretary of Defense Laura Mitchell ran through the halls of the Pentagon. She had been woken by a phone call that simply said, "Get here now." When she reached the Situation Room, she found it filled with generals, scientists, and government officials. Everyone was talking at once, their voices rising with fear and confusion. Admiral Henry Cole stood near the main screen, his old face showing no emotion. He had served in 3 wars and had seen terrible things. But nothing had prepared him for this. "How many ships?" Laura asked him. "Our satellites show about 2,000 vessels sitting between Earth and Mars," Cole replied. "Each one is at least a mile long. We have nothing that can match them." President Daniel Ortiz entered the room looking like he had dressed in a hurry. His tie was crooked, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He looked at the frozen image of the alien on the screen and let out a long breath. 30 days, he said quietly. "They gave us 30 days to choose between slavery and death." "Sir, we do have some options," Laura said, stepping forward. "The Prometheus Initiative. The secret program we started 5 years ago. We have prototype ships, experimental weapons. They were never meant to be used this soon, but those ships are not ready." "Ow," interrupted General Marcus Webb, a large man with a permanent frown. "Half of them cannot even fly yet." "Then we make them ready," Laura shot back, "because I do not see another choice." "Do you?" The room fell silent. Everyone knew she was right. Surrender meant the end of humanity as they knew it. The aliens had made that clear. They would take over the planet, use humans as workers, or worse. Fighting seemed impossible, but it was the only path that left any hope. President Ortiz nodded slowly. "Contact every ally we have. Tell them what is happening. We need to work together on this. Every country, every resource, every person who can help, and get me the scientists who designed those prototype ships. We are going to need them." Across the world, people were waking up to the news. In Tokyo, crowds gathered in the streets, watching giant screens replay the alien message over and over. Some people cried. Some people prayed. Some just stood in shocked silence, unable to believe what they were seeing. In London, the Prime Minister called an emergency meeting of Parliament. The old building had seen many crises over the centuries, but nothing like this. Members shouted at each other, demanding answers that no one had. What could they do against an enemy from the stars? In Beijing, the military was already moving. Soldiers loaded onto trucks and headed to secret bases. Scientists were pulled from their beds and brought to underground facilities. The Chinese government had always planned for war, but their plans had never included fighting aliens. In a small town in Kansas, a farmer named George looked up at the sky. He had lived on his land for 60 years, working the same fields his father and grandfather had worked. Now he wondered if any of it mattered. If the aliens came, what could a farmer do? But as he stood there in the darkness, something changed in his heart. Fear turned to anger. This was his home, his planet. His people had fought for everything they had, and they would not give it up without a fight. That same feeling was spreading across the globe. In every country, in every city and town, people were making the same decision. They would not surrender. They would not go quietly. If humanity was going to die, it would die fighting. Back in Washington, Laura Mitchell was on the phone with Dr. Samuel Grant, the lead scientist on the Prometheus Initiative. He was a thin man with messy hair and thick glasses, more comfortable with equations than people. But his mind was exactly what humanity needed right now. "How fast can you get those ships working?" Laura asked. "With enough people and resources? Maybe 3 weeks for the main fleet. But they will not be perfect. We are talking about technology we barely understand ourselves. Perfect does not matter anymore. Can they fight?" There was a pause. "Yes, they can fight. Whether they can win is another question." That is all I needed to hear. "You have everything you need. Money, workers, materials. Just make it happen."
Yes.
In the days that followed, the world transformed. Old enemies became allies overnight. Russia and America shared military secrets. China and Japan worked side by side. Countries that had fought each other for centuries suddenly found that their differences did not matter anymore. Factories that had been making cars started making weapons. Universities stopped teaching regular classes and became research centers. Young people signed up to join the military in numbers never seen before. Everyone wanted to help. Everyone wanted to do their part. President Ortiz gave a speech that was broadcast around the world. He stood in front of a simple backdrop, looking directly into the camera. To the people of Earth, he said, "We face the greatest challenge in our history. An enemy from beyond our world has demanded our surrender. They think we are weak. They think we will give up. They are wrong. Humanity has faced extinction before. Ice ages, plagues, wars that nearly destroyed us. Each time we survived. Each time we grew stronger. We will survive this too. Not because we are the strongest species in the galaxy. Not because we have the best weapons. But because we refuse to quit. That is what makes us human. So to the Galactic Council, I have one message. We will not surrender. Not today. Not ever. If you want our planet, come and take it. We will be waiting." The message spread across the world. People watched it in their homes, in shelters, in military bases. And everywhere, they felt the same thing. Pride, determination, a fierce refusal to accept defeat. High above Earth, the alien fleet waited. They had done this many times before with other species. Usually, the threats alone were enough. The primitive creatures would see the power of the Council and surrender without a fight. But as they watched humanity's response, something unexpected happened. Concern began to spread through the alien commanders. This species was not reacting like the others. Instead of fear, they showed defiance. Instead of surrender, they were preparing to fight. High Arbiter Velconus watched the human broadcasts with his 3 eyes narrowed. He had conquered dozens of worlds, and none had dared to resist like this. These humans were either very brave or very stupid. Perhaps both, he thought. It did not matter. The Council had never lost. In 10,000 years of galactic rule, no species had ever defeated them. These humans would learn their place, just like all the others. But deep down, in a part of his mind he did not want to acknowledge, Velconus felt something he had not felt in centuries. Doubt the world had never moved so fast. In the first week after the alien message, more cooperation happened between nations than in the previous 50 years. Old hatreds were forgotten. Border disputes were set aside. For the first time in human history, the entire planet was working toward a single goal, the United Earth Defense. Compact was signed in Geneva on a rainy Tuesday morning. 193 countries put their names on the document, pledging everything they had to the fight ahead. Presidents and prime ministers, who had once refused to be in the same room, now sat side by side, united by the threat from the stars. Deep beneath the Nevada desert, Dr. Samuel Grant worked without rest. His secret facility had grown from a small research lab to a massive underground factory in just days. Workers poured in from around the world. Engineers from Germany. Scientists from Japan. Technicians from Brazil. They spoke different languages, but they all understood the same thing. Build ships. Build weapons. Save humanity. The prototype vessels sat in enormous hangars carved into the rock. They were ugly things, all sharp angles and exposed metal. Nothing like the smooth, curved ships of the alien fleet. But they were powerful. Samuel had spent years developing fusion reactors that could power weapons beyond anything Earth had ever built. Railguns that could launch metal slugs at incredible speeds. Missile systems that could track targets across millions of miles. General Marcus Webb arrived for an inspection on day 12. He walked through the facility with a group of military leaders from different nations. Chinese generals walked beside American admirals. Russian officers stood with their British counterparts. The old division seemed almost silly now. How many ships can we build? Webb asked, looking up at the nearest vessel. It towered above them, nearly half a mile long. Samuel wiped grease from his hands. He had not slept in 3 days. If we convert every major factory on Earth, steal materials from everywhere we can, and work everyone to exhaustion, about 40 combat ships. Maybe another 100 smaller support vessels. 40 against 2,000, muttered Admiral Wei from China. I know the numbers are not good, Samuel admitted. But these ships are different from anything we have ever built. They are designed for one purpose: war. And humans are very good at war. We have been practicing for 10,000 years. The lead ship was named the Defiance. It was the largest vessel humanity had ever constructed, nearly a kilometer from front to back. Its hull was covered in weapons. Railguns lined its sides. Missile tubes dotted its surface. At its heart, twin fusion reactors hummed with enough power to light a small city. Admiral Henry Cole would command the Defiance and lead the entire human fleet. He had been chosen not just for his experience, but for his reputation. He was known as the man who never gave up. In his long career, he had faced defeat many times, but he had always found a way to keep fighting. She is beautiful, Cole said, standing on the bridge for the first time. The command center was cramped and utilitarian, nothing like the sleek starships from movies. But it felt right. It felt human. She is a weapon, said Commander Joseph Barnes, who would serve as Cole's second in command. The most powerful weapon we have ever built. That is what makes her beautiful. While the military prepared for war, Laura Mitchell coordinated the civilian response. Evacuation plans were created, though everyone knew there was nowhere to run. If the aliens won, it would not matter where people hid. But the planning gave people something to do, something to focus on besides their fear. Underground shelters were expanded across the globe. Old mine shafts became emergency bunkers. Subway tunnels were reinforced. Basements were stocked with food and water. It was not much, but it was better than nothing. Volunteers lined up by the millions. People who had never held a weapon before asked to be trained. Doctors signed up to serve on ships they had never seen. Engineers offered to work in the factories. Everyone wanted to help, even if they did not know how. On day 15, the aliens sent another message. High Arbiter Velconis appeared on screens around the world, his blue face twisted into what might have been a smile. We have watched your activities with interest, he said. Your little ships. Your little weapons. It is almost cute. You have 15 days remaining. Surrender now, and some of your people may be allowed to live as servants. Continue to resist, and nothing will remain of your world but dust. President Ortiz responded within hours. His message was broadcast not just to Earth, but toward the alien fleet as well. He stood alone in front of a simple blue background, looking tired but determined. To the Galactic Council, he said, "You have made a mistake. You look at our history and see violence, and you think that makes us dangerous. You are right, but not in the way you imagine. Yes, we have fought each other. We have killed each other. We have done terrible things. But those same conflicts taught us something important. They taught us how to survive. They taught us how to fight against impossible odds. They taught us that giving up is never an option." He paused, his eyes hardening. "You think 30 days is enough time to make us afraid? We have lived in fear before. Fear of disease. Fear of starvation. Fear of each other. We survived all of it. And we will survive you." The final image of his broadcast showed the Defiance rising from Earth's surface, surrounded by her sister ships. 40 vessels against an empire that spanned the galaxy. It should have looked hopeless. Instead, it looked defiant. Across the planet, people watched and felt something stir in their hearts. Pride, anger, hope. The feeling was hard to describe. But it was powerful. For the first time since the alien message arrived, humanity felt like it had a chance. In the factories, workers pushed themselves harder. In the training camps, soldiers drilled until they dropped from exhaustion. In the research labs, scientists searched for any advantage they could find. Dr. Samuel Grant discovered something interesting in the debris from an alien probe that had crashed on Earth years ago. The Council's shields were designed to stop energy weapons, lasers, and plasma bursts. But they were not as good at stopping solid objects moving at high speed. Human railguns, which launched chunks of metal rather than beams of light, might actually be effective. They have been fighting energy weapon wars for millennia, he explained to Admiral Cole during a video call. They never developed defenses against kinetic weapons because no other species uses them. It is not a perfect advantage, but it is something. Something is better than nothing, Cole replied. Keep looking. Find us every edge you can. The human fleet gathered in orbit on day 28. 42 warships and 97 support vessels, crewed by men and women from every nation on Earth. They had trained together for less than a month. Many had never been to space before. Some were sick from the lack of gravity. Others were terrified of the darkness outside their windows. But they were ready. As ready as they could be, Admiral Cole addressed the fleet from the bridge of the Defiance. His voice was carried to every ship, heard by every sailor and soldier. I will not lie to you, he said. The odds are against us. The enemy has more ships, more experience, more technology. By every measure that matters, we should lose this fight. But we are human. We do not accept the way things should be. We fight, we struggle, we claw our way forward against every obstacle. That is what we do. That is who we are. He looked out at the stars, at the distant lights that might be alien ships waiting to destroy his world. Out there is an enemy that thinks they have already won. They think we are just another primitive species to be conquered. Let us show them how wrong they are. Let us show them what humans can do when our backs are against the wall. Let us give them a fight they will never forget. A cheer rose from the crew. It spread from ship to ship. A wave of sound and fury. The fear was still there. But now it was mixed with something stronger. Determination. The fleet moved out, heading toward the asteroid belt where they would make their stand. Behind them, Earth grew smaller. A blue dot in the endless black. Humanity was going to war. The asteroid belt stretched across millions of miles. A field of rocks and debris floating in the darkness between Mars and Jupiter. Admiral Henry Cole had chosen this place for a reason. The asteroids would provide cover, breaking up the enemy's targeting systems. It was not much of an advantage. It was better than meeting the alien fleet in open space. The human ships took positions among the largest rocks, hiding their heat signatures as much as possible. Crews worked in near silence, checking weapons and systems for the 100th time. The waiting was almost worse than the fighting would be. Lieutenant Maya Santos sat at the tactical station on the Defiance, watching her screens with tired eyes. She was 26 years old, born in the Philippines, trained in America. 6 months ago, she had been tracking pirates in the South China Sea. Now she was about to fight aliens. Contact, she said suddenly, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Enemy fleet is moving. They have left their position near Mars. Admiral Cole walked to her station and looked at the display. 2,000 points of light were advancing in perfect formation, a wall of destruction heading straight for them. Take time until they reach us. For hours, at their current speed, Cole nodded. For hours to prepare? For hours to wait? For hours to think about everything that might go wrong? He turned to Commander Joseph Barnes, who stood nearby with arms crossed. Status of the fleet? All ships report ready, sir. Weapons charged. Shields at full power. Everyone knows their jobs. Good, let them know the enemy's coming. And tell them to get some rest if they can. It might be the last chance they get. The hours passed slowly. Some crew members tried to sleep, though few succeeded. Others wrote messages to their families, words they hoped would somehow reach Earth if the worst happened. A few gathered in small groups to pray, their different religions not seeming so different anymore. Private. Amy Chen sat in the Marine barracks with her rifle across her knees. She was 19, the youngest person on the ship. She had joined the military to pay for college, never expecting to actually fight. Now she might die millions of miles from home. Scared? Asked the soldier next to her, a large man named Tony from Texas. Terrified, she admitted. Good, me too. Anyone who says they are not scared is lying or crazy. He checked his weapon for the 10th time. But we have a job to do. That is all that matters right now. The alien fleet appeared on visual scanners an hour before contact. Even from this distance, the enemy ships were impressive. They glowed with inner light, their smooth hulls reflecting the distant sun. Each one was a work of art, beautiful and terrible at the same time. High Arbiter, Velconis commanded from his flagship, the Eternal Judgment. He watched the human fleet on his display with all three eyes and felt something close to pity. The primitives had actually come out to fight. They had built their little ships and gathered their little weapons, and now they would die. Begin the attack, he ordered. Standard cleansing protocol. Leave nothing alive. The Council fleet opened fire. Plasma weapons lit up the void, brilliant beams of green and blue slicing through the darkness. Asteroids exploded into dust. Space itself seemed to burn, but the humans were not where the aliens expected them to be. Admiral Cole had spread his fleet throughout the asteroid field, using the rocks to hide tea. Air positions. The first alien volley hit mostly empty space. When the Council ships adjusted their aim, the humans had already moved. Return fire, Cole ordered. All ships engage at will. The Defiance shook as her railguns spoke for the first time. Tungsten slugs, each one the size of a car, launched at incredible speeds. They crossed the distance in seconds, slammed into an alien cruiser. The result was devastating. The Council ship's shields flared, designed to stop energy weapons, but the solid metal punched through like it was not there. The cruiser crumpled, its elegant hull tearing apart under the impact. It exploded in a ball of fire, scattering debris across space. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human weapons, crude and brutal compared to alien technology, were proving effective. Missiles found their targets. Railgun slugs tore through shields. The Council fleet, so confident moments before, was suddenly taking losses. They are dying, Lieutenant Santos reported, her voice filled with disbelief. We are actually killing them, but the battle was far from over. The aliens had numbers on their side, and they learned quickly. Their formation shifted, spreading out to make targeting harder. Their weapons adjusted, finding human ships despite the asteroid cover. The destroyer Hope took a direct hit and vanished in a flash of light. 300 souls gone in an instant. The cruiser Valiant lost its engines and drifted helplessly until enemy fire finished it off. The support ship Mercy tried to rescue survivors and was destroyed for her trouble. Admiral Cole felt each loss like a physical blow. These were his people, his responsibility, and they were dying. Sir, we have lost 18 ships, Commander Barnes reported grimly. But we have destroyed nearly 200 of theirs. 200. Against 2,000. The numbers were still against them, but not as badly as before. Keep fighting, Cole ordered. Make them pay for every inch. The battle raged for 6 hours. Human ships darted between asteroids using the terrain to their advantage. Alien vessels pursued them only to fly into ambushes. Neither side was willing to retreat. Private Amy Chen found herself fighting hand-to-hand when a Council boarding party breached her section of the Defiance. The aliens were tall, thin creatures with forearms and skin like leather. They moved fast and hit hard. She killed her first one with a shot to what she hoped was its head. The second she took down with her combat knife, when her rifle jammed, the third almost got her, its claws raking across her armor before Tony put it down. Not bad for a college kid, Tony said, helping her up. I am not a college kid anymore, she replied. wiping alien blood from her face. When the battle finally ended, both sides pulled back to count their losses. The human fleet had been reduced to 24 ships. 4,000 men and women had died. It was the worst military loss in human history. But the Council fleet had lost 212 vessels, more than 10% of their force, destroyed by a species they had considered primitive. High Arbiter Velconus sat alone in his quarters, staring at the casualty reports. This was impossible. The Council had never lost so many ships in a single engagement. Not once in 10,000 years of galactic rule. They fought like animals, reported one of his commanders. No regard for their own lives. They rammed their ships into ours rather than retreat. What kind of species does that? Velconus did not answer. He was thinking about the message the human leader had sent. They had promised to fight. They had promised to make the Council pay. They had kept their promise. On the Defiance, Admiral Cole addressed his surviving crew. His ship was damaged, hull breaches sealed with emergency patches, weapons systems barely functional. But she was still flying. We won, he said simply. For the first time in history, someone stood up to the Galactic Council and won. We showed them that we will not go quietly. We showed them that humans will fight to the last breath. He paused, thinking of the thousands who had died. Their sacrifice would not be forgotten. But this is not over. The enemy still has 1,800 ships. They will come again, and they will be ready for us. So we need to be ready too. Repair what you can. Rest when you can, because the next fight is coming and it will be worse than this one. The crew dispersed to their duties, too tired to cheer but too proud to despair. They had done the impossible. They had fought an alien empire and survived. Across the solar system, news of the battle spread. On Earth, people who had been preparing for the worst suddenly had hope. In the alien fleet, commanders who had expected an easy victory were questioning everything they knew. The war had just begun. News of the victory spread across Earth like fire through dry grass. People who had spent weeks in fear suddenly found hope. The aliens could be beaten. The impossible had happened. Humanity had a chance, but the military leaders knew the truth. They had won a single battle, not the war. The Council still had 1,800 ships, and more could be called from across the galaxy. The human fleet was damaged and exhausted. Another attack could finish them. In Geneva, the United Earth Defense Council met to discuss their options. Leaders from every nation argued about what to do next. Some wanted to retreat to Earth and make a final stand on their home planet. Others pushed for another attack while the aliens were still shocked. Ambassador Catherine Blake, a tall woman with sharp eyes and silver hair, suggested something different. We need allies, she said, standing before the assembled leaders. There must be other species out there who hate the Council. Other worlds that have been conquered or threatened. We cannot be the only ones who want to fight back. How do we find them? Asked the Russian representative. We barely know what is in our own solar system. We send a message, Catherine replied. A call for help. Broadcast on every frequency we can find. Tell the galaxy what happened here. Tell them the Council can be defeated.
Dr. Samuel Grant
made it happen. His team had been studying captured alien technology since the battle, learning how Council communications worked. Within days, they were ready to send a message that would reach across the stars. The broadcast was simple but powerful. It showed footage of the battle, human ships destroying alien vessels. It showed President Ortiz speaking about freedom and resistance, and it ended with a direct invitation. To all species under Council rule, Earth has defied the Galactic Council. We have destroyed 200 of their warships. They are not unbeatable. If you have ever dreamed of freedom, if you have ever wanted to fight back, now is your chance. Join us. Together, we can end their control forever. The message spread at the speed of light, reaching systems that humans had never heard of. Most who received it ignored it, too afraid or too beaten to respond. But some listened, and some decided to act. The Valkyrie were the first to arrive. They were insect-like beings, tall and thin with hard shells and clicking mandibles. Their homeworld had been conquered 800 years ago, turned into a mining colony where their people worked as slaves. They came with 12 ships, ancient vessels held together with hope and desperation. Their leader, a female named Captain Rila, met with Admiral Cole on the Defiance. Communication was difficult at first, but translation software eventually made conversation possible. "We saw your message," Rila said, her mandibles clicking with each word. "We thought it was a trick. No one fights the Council and lives. But then we checked the reports. You actually did it. You actually won." "One battle," Cole admitted. "We have a long way to go. One battle is more than anyone else has managed in 10,000 years. That is enough for us. We would rather die fighting than live as slaves." More ships arrived in the following weeks. The Shoreth came next, amphibian traders whose business had been destroyed by council taxes. They were not warriors, but they brought supplies, medicine, and information about alien technology. Their knowledge would save many human lives in the battles to come. The Morthani appeared without warning, 3 ships carrying the last survivors of their species. They were tall, skeletal beings with gray skin and black eyes that showed no emotion. The Council had destroyed their world 50 years ago, killing billions. The few thousand who remained had been running ever since, waiting for a chance at revenge. "We have nothing to offer but our lives," their leader said through the translator. "We will fight until we die. That is all we want." Other species followed. Some brought ships. Some brought supplies. Some brought only themselves, ready to fight with whatever weapons they could find. Within 2 months, the resistance had grown from humanity alone to a coalition of 17 species. United by hatred of the Council and hope for something better, the fleet swelled to 300 vessels. Human ships fought alongside alien ones, their crews learning to work together despite having nothing in common but a shared enemy. It was strange, sometimes difficult, but it worked. Admiral Cole found himself commanding beings he could barely understand. The Valkyrie clicked and buzzed in their strange language. The Shorth needed tanks of water to survive. The Morthani rarely spoke at all, communicating through hand signals and written notes. But they all fought with the same determination. "Never thought I would be serving with bugs and fish people," muttered Tony. Now promoted to sergeant during a joint training exercise, Private Amy Chen elbowed him in the ribs. "They are not bugs and fish people. They are allies. Treat them with respect." "I respect them fine. Rilla over there killed more council soldiers in one boarding action than our whole squad combined. I just never expected this to be my life. Neither had anyone else. But the galaxy had changed, and they were changing with it." High Arbiter Velconus watched these developments with growing concern. The humans were bad enough, but now other species were joining them. Species that had been conquered and controlled for centuries were suddenly remembering how to fight. He called a meeting of the Council leadership, gathering the most powerful beings in the galaxy to discuss the threat. They met in the arbitration sphere, the massive space station that served as the Council's capital. It had never been attacked. It had never needed to be. No one would dare. "This rebellion must be crushed," Velconus declared. "If we allow it to spread, others will follow. Every conquered world will think they can fight back. The entire order of the galaxy is at stake." "Then send more ships," suggested one of his advisors. "We have thousands in reserve, enough to destroy them 10 times over. It takes time. Ships must be gathered from across our territory. The humans are already gaining strength. Every day we wait, they grow stronger. Then attack now with what we have. Finish them before they become a real threat." Velconus considered this. His remaining fleet still outnumbered the rebels by a large margin. A decisive victory would end this foolishness once and for all. "Very well. Prepare the fleet for a final assault. We will wipe out these primitives and make an example of their world. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who defy the Council." The Council fleet began to move, 1,800 ships heading toward the rebel position. This time, they would not underestimate their enemy. This time, they would show no mercy. But the rebels had spies among the conquered species. servants who passed information in secret. Word of the attack reached Admiral Cole before the Council fleet had even left orbit. "They are coming in force," Cole told his commanders during an emergency meeting. "Every ship they have left in this sector, they mean to end us." "Then we meet them in open battle," suggested Commander Barnes. "We have more ships now." "Better odds than before?" "Still not good enough," Cole replied. "Even with our allies, we are outgunned. We need a different approach." He pulled up a map of the galaxy on the main display. "What do we know about their capital?" "The arbitration sphere." Captain Rila stepped forward. "It is the most heavily defended location in Council space. Thousands of ships protected at all times. The station itself has weapons capable of destroying entire fleets." "What if it did not have those ships protecting it?" Cole asked. "What if they were all here trying to destroy us?" The room fell silent as everyone understood what he was suggesting. "Want to attack their capital?" Barnes said slowly. "While their fleet is away. I want to cut off the head of the snake. Kill their leadership. Destroy their center of power. Without the arbitration sphere, the Council falls apart. Every species they have conquered would be free." "It is insane," Rilla said, her mandibles clicking rapidly. "The station's defenses alone could destroy us."
Maybe.
"But what is the alternative? We fight their fleet here and lose slowly. Or we take a risk and maybe win everything." Cole looked around the room at the faces of a dozen species, all of them tired, all of them afraid, all of them determined. "Hey, this is our chance," he said. "Maybe our only chance. I say we take it." One by one, the commanders nodded their agreement. The Morthani leader simply raised his fist in a gesture that needed no translation. They would attack the arbitration sphere. They would risk everything on one final gamble, and they would win or die trying. The rebel fleet jumped to hyperspace on a cold morning by Earth time. 300 ships carrying the hopes of a dozen species. Their destination was the arbitration sphere, the heart of the Galactic Council, the most heavily defended location in known space. It was a suicide mission, and everyone knew it. Admiral Henry Cole stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the stars blur as they traveled faster than light. His ship had been patched and repaired 100 times. Her hull was scarred, her systems held together with improvised fixes. But she was still flying, still fighting, like her crew, like humanity itself. "Time to target," he asked. "For hours," Lieutenant Maya Santos replied. "The Council fleet is still heading toward our decoy position. They have not realized we are gone yet." The decoy had been Commander Barnes's idea. A small force of ships broadcasting false signals, making it look like the entire rebel fleet was still in the asteroid belt. By the time the Council realized the truth, it would be too late. Cole hoped it would be too late. The arbitration sphere appeared on sensors 3 hours later. It was massive, a station the size of a small moon, covered in weapons and shields. Even with most of the defending fleet gone, hundreds of ships still protected it. The odds were still terrible. "All ships, battle stations," Cole ordered. "This is what we trained for. This is what we came here to do. Remember what we are fighting for. Not just our own lives. Not just our own worlds. Every species the Council has conquered is counting on us. Every slave, every prisoner, every being who has ever dreamed of freedom. We carry their hopes with us. Do not let them down." The rebel fleet emerged from hyperspace in attack formation. Human ships led the charge, their heavy railguns opening fire before the defenders could react. Valkyrie cruisers swept in from the flanks, their plasma weapons cutting through enemy vessels. Shorith support ships jammed communications, preventing calls for help. Morthani boarding craft launched toward the station itself, their crews eager for the close combat they preferred. The Council defenders responded with devastating force. Their weapons were powerful, their shields strong. Rebel ships exploded by the dozens, the void filled with fire and debris and the bodies of the dead. The Defiance took hit after hit but kept advancing. Her shields failed. Her hull buckled. Entire sections lost atmosphere, crew members dying before they could reach safety. But Cole refused to turn back. "Get us to that station," he ordered. Whatever it takes. Lieutenant Santos saw what he was planning. Sir, if we ram the station at this speed, we will open a hole in their defenses. A hole big enough for our Marines to get through. Cole looked at his tactical officer with tired eyes. It has been an honor serving with you, Lieutenant. The honor has been mine, sir. The Defiance accelerated toward the arbitration sphere, her remaining engines burning at full power. Council weapons tore into her, but she kept coming. She was dying, but she would not die alone. Major Christina Howard commanded the Marine forces aboard the Defiance. She was a compact woman with close-cropped hair and a reputation for never asking her soldiers to do anything she would not do herself. When the order came to prepare for boarding, she gathered her people in the main hangar. We are going to hit that station hard, she told them. Some of us will not make it. Maybe most of us. But those who do have one job, find the council leadership. End this war. Can you do that? Yes, ma'am, came the response. Voices from a dozen species, speaking in a dozen languages but meaning the same thing. Private Amy Chen stood among them, her rifle clutched tight. She was 20 now, older than she had any right to be. The war had changed her, hardened her. The scared college kid who had first stepped onto the Defiance was gone. In her place was a soldier. Tony stood beside her as he always did. Ready for this? No, she admitted, but I am going anyway. The Defiance struck the arbitratio in sphere at tremendous speed. The impact was catastrophic. The ship broke apart, her fusion reactors going critical, her hull tearing into pieces. But she took the station's main hangar with her, ripping a hole in the defenses that could not be closed. Admiral Cole died in the impact, along with most of his crew. They had known the price and paid it willingly. The surviving Marines launched through the breach in assault shuttles, landing in the ruined hangar and spreading out through the station. Council security forces rushed to stop them, but the attackers were fighting with a fury born of desperation. Major Howard led the advance, her squad cutting through resistance with brutal efficiency. The Morthani, silent as always, took the most dangerous corridors, their tall forms impossible to stop. Valkyrie soldiers provided covering fire, their insect eyes tracking multiple targets at once. Amy found herself face to face with a council guard, a creature twice her size with claws that could tear through armor. She did not hesitate. Her rifle spoke 3 times, and the guard fell. Keep moving, Tony shouted, and she followed him deeper into the station. The fighting lasted for hours. Corridors became graveyards. Bodies from a dozen species littered the floors. The air filled with smoke and the screams of the dying. High Arbiter Velkonis sat in the central command chamber, surrounded by his advisors. He had received word of the attack too late to stop it. His fleet was far away, chasing shadows. His defenses were crumbling. The impossible was happening. The doors to the chamber exploded inward. Major Howard stepped through, her armor scorched and bloody, her weapon raised. High Arbiter Velkonis, she said, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. By order of the United Earth Defense Council and the Free Species Alliance, you are under arrest for crimes against sentient life. Your government is dissolved. Your authority is ended. Velkonis looked at her with all 3 of his eyes. He had ruled for centuries. He had conquered worlds. And now he was being brought down by a species that had barely discovered fire a few thousand years ago. You cannot do this, he said. We are the Galactic Council. We have ruled for 10,000 years. Past tense, Howard replied. You ruled. It is over now. She did not pull the trigger. She did not need to. Velkonis, seeing his guards dead and his station falling, slowly raised his hands in surrender. Outside, the battle continued for another hour before the remaining council forces gave up. When the shooting finally stopped, the rebels held the arbitration sphere. The council leadership was captured or dead. The war was effectively over. News of the victory spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. On conquered worlds, slaves rose up against their masters. Species that had not dared to resist suddenly found their courage. The Council's empire, built over millennia, crumbled in days. 6 months later, the Treaty of Earth was signed. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered to create a new government, one based on freedom and equality rather than fear and control. Humanity, the youngest species at the table, was given a place of honor for starting the revolution that changed everything. Commander Joseph Barnes, promoted to admiral after Cole's death, attended the ceremony. He walked with a cane now, his injuries from the final battle never fully healing, but he was alive. More than he had expected, Amy Chen stood in the plaza outside the treaty hall, watching beings from across the galaxy mingle and talk. The war had taken so much from her. Friends, innocence, parts of herself she would never get back. But it had also given her something: purpose, pride, a universe that was finally free. Tony found her there. 2 cups of something that passed for coffee in his hands. "Strange, is it not?" he said, handing her a cup. "A year ago, we did not even know these people existed. Now, we are allies. Friends, even." "A year ago, we almost went extinct," Amy replied. "Things change, they do." He looked up at the stars, visible even in the middle of the day on this alien world. "Think we will find more trouble out there?" "Probably. The galaxy is big. There is always more trouble." "Good." He grinned. "I was worried I might get bored." They stood together in silence, watching the future unfold around them. The war was over, but the work was just beginning. There were worlds to rebuild, species to help, a galaxy to explore, and humanity would be there for all of it. Not as conquerors or masters, but as partners, as equals. As the species that had looked at an impossible enemy and refused to surrender, the Galactic Council had ordered Earth to give up. Humanity had responded with warships, and the galaxy would never be the same. The end.